Hello my friends, today I will show you how to carve maxillary lateral incisor tooth from a swoop block. First we have prepared the dimensions of the tooth. As you can see here, this tooth has a total length of 22.5 millimeters and the root length is 13.4 millimeters and the crown length is 9.8 millimeters. In total it makes 23.2. So there is, when you look at the table, these dimensions are from our dimension table from our book and from the theoretical class. So the average root length, and if you add to average root length to average crown length, we can find 23.2 or something like that. So the average total length is not in accordance with these dimensions. Because of this, it is better for you to keep the proportions. It is better for you to make the total length almost 70 millimeters or 7 centimeters, and the mesiodistal dimension is 19.8 and the buccolingual is close to the mesiodistal in this tooth, 18.6 millimeters, but please note that still the mesiodistal dimension is larger than the buccolingual dimension. So this will be our line, our cervical line, and this part will be the root and the other part will be the crown. I have prepared the block before to quickly start the carving demonstration. So first of all, we are all the time starting with the cervical line, and please remember all the time our cervical lines in this incisor tooth, anterior tooth, is curvy, and please make the cervical line as a curve. We have a line here to mark the crown length, but we should know that this straight line is at the top of this curve, the peak of this curvy cervical line. So please don't make mistake about the form of cervical line. It should be curvy, and please ignore this straight line when you start to modulate the cervical line. So there is a contour crest here, you all know. We are now elevating the contour crest by depressing all the area surrounding the contour crest. So don't touch the contour crest area, please depress and carve the incisal part and the cervical part as well. By carving and depressing the surrounding area, this contour crest area will be elevated from the surface. And I am, as you can see here, extending the curvy cervical line to approximal surfaces, mesial and distal surfaces. My soap is very soft now. It is better to use a little bit dried soap, a little bit harder material, because of the softness of my soap, I have to be very careful about the carving. And this will be the mesial surface, this surface. So I am putting the contour crest, mesial contour crest in the mesial surface. Please remember that the mesial surface of this tooth is a little bit rounded than the maxillary central incisor. So I am making the mesial incisal corner a little bit rounded, and distal incisal corner is more rounded as well. And the incisal edge is not flat as it was in maxillary central incisor. The incisal edge is also a little bit more rounded and curvy in lateral incisor. And here is the lingual surface. The cervical line is curvy at the lingual side as well. I'm making the cervical line curve. Then, as you can see here, extending the cervical line, the curved line, to the approximal, mesial, and distal areas. And this V-shaped cervical line, curvature crest, starts to form, starts to appear in the at the approximal surfaces. And as always, our tooth form will gets narrower in the approximal areas through the lingual surface. So I am narrowing, carving the approximal surfaces to be more narrow than the buccal surface, and my cingulum will start to appear here at this point. The cingulum is located in the middle of the mesiodistal distance dimension. Please remember, it was located a little bit distally in maxillary central incisor, but for this tooth the cingulum is located in the middle of lingual surface. So to elevate the cingulum, I am depressing the surrounding area, so the cingulum is starting to appear, to be elevated from the surface. This area will be the central fossa. And also the buccal surface. Should be depressed to form the incisal edge. So our incisal edge is starting to appear, and we will turn the buccal surface like this, and we will make a central fossa. We will deepen the central fossa, and these two surfaces will join at the incisal edge. The incisal edge should be located in the middle of this buccolingual surface. So be careful about the location of incisal edge, please. It is another common mistake to make the incisal edge more buccally or more lingually than needed. So with care and with a balanced modeling, you should put the incisal edge in the middle of buccolingual surface. Okay, most of the crown was shaped. The incisal edge is still thicker than needed. So I am now trying to join the buccal and lingual surface to make the incisal edge thinner. But again, I have to be very careful because the soap is very soft. So with only one bad move, everything should go somewhere, cannot be fixed. With only one mistake, I can fail. So okay, you see the distal surface is rounded, distal contracrest is almost in the middle of distal outline. Mesial surface is also rounded, but not as much as the distal surface, and mesial surface, the mesial contracrest is still a little bit close to the incisal edge, incisal corner. I am making more rounded the distal surface. So the crown is almost done now. This is the approximal surfaces, as you can see here, and the cingulum is smaller than the central incisor as well. Please remember that our cingulum is smaller than the maxillary central tooth. So this is the cingulum. So in general, the outline of the tooth, the shape of the tooth is similar to maxillary central incisor, but it is like a miniature model of central incisor. The mesiodistal dimension is bigger in central incisor, and the proportion between the crown length and mesiodistal dimension is advantageous for mesiodistal dimension in maxillary central incisor. So it is like a narrow central incisor, more rounded and narrow central incisor shape. Okay, this is the crown outline. This is from the approximal surface and lingual surface, a small cingulum located in the middle of lingual surface, and we will leave the fossa to the end of this carving demo. As always, please, I recommend you to leave the fossa modeling to the end of your work. Okay, so we can start to shape the root. We will remove bigger parts of soap block in the beginning to make the root faster. If you remember, the root of this tooth is more pointy than the central incisor, and the root apex is more tilted to distal side, and its crown root ratio is different than maxillary incisor. The crown of maxillary lateral incisor is shorter than central incisor, but the root of lateral incisor is longer than maxillary central incisor. It is very difficult with this really soft soap block, so when you buy your soap first, if it is too soft like this one, please leave your blocks a few days out of its package to be dried a little bit more, because it's very easy for this very soft block to make mistake. Only one wrong move can ruin everything. The root cross section is still like the central incisor. It has a triangular cross section but more rounded. It is between the shapes triangle and ellipse. So please make the root, the corners of the root more rounded in this tooth, and the root apex is more tilted to distal side. Okay, so the main outline, the general shape was done. The crown and the root. The proportions are okay, and the anatomic landmarks are all in the right positions, the right locations. The cervical line should be better now. Now I will make the cervical line more clear. The contour crest, the curvature crest, cervical line curvature crest is deeper in mesial side and shallow in distal side. It's always deeper in mesial side. You know this right now. So this is my cervical line transition. It's generally the most difficult part of tooth carving, tooth modeling. Yes, it is nice enough, I guess. And to make a better one, I need to wait for the soap to dry some more. For that reason, it is good enough for now. Yes, so you can see here you can polish the surface with even with your finger. The soap is that soft. So this is the maxillary lateral incisor, guys. The root should be a little bit shorter. We have a few millimeters reserve material when we are cutting the soap block. We are cutting a few millimeters more to have a reserve in case of making mistakes. So I will shorten the root some more, and this is our tooth form, guys. Again, I want to make this cervical transition area better, but for that I need to wait a little more, a little time for the soap to dry and become harder. And the cingulum is a little bit bigger than needed. Okay, with polishing, this transition area will be smoother. And lastly, I am making the fossa, central fossa. There are two marginal ridges here, mesial and distal marginal ridge, and the incisal edge. They are surrounding and limiting the fossa. As you can see here, these are my marginal ridges, and this is the marginal ridge, distal marginal ridge, and mesial marginal ridge. The length of the marginal ridges are almost equal to each other because the cingulum is located in the middle. So the mesial marginal ridge was longer than the distal one in maxillary central incisor, if you remember, but for this tooth they are almost equal to each other. They are not that different. So our cingulum, and here is our central lingual fossa. And two developmental grooves we have in the lateral incisor, as well as shallow grooves, and these grooves are smaller than the central incisor. As well, everything, every dimension except the root length, every dimension is smaller than the central incisor. Only the root length is more than the central incisor root length, guys. So we have made our developmental grooves in the buccal surface. I don't know if you can see them or not. Maybe we should make a little bit deeper to show you. Yes, maybe with this angle you can see the shallow depressions in the buccal surface. We call them developmental grooves. Here you can see. So this is the maxillary lateral incisor. We will polish it in the end. It is similar to the maxillary central incisor. The root is longer and more pointy and more tilted to distal side. The crown is smaller than the central incisor, more rounded crown and more rounded incisal edge, and a smaller cingulum located in the middle of the tooth, and the smaller or miniature copy and more rounded, of course, copy of central incisor tooth. Yeah, that's it. Of course we will polish, but now it is not a good idea to try to polish this very soft soap material. So we will wait for a while, then after drying the soap we will polish it. Okay, the depressions, incisal edge in the middle, and smaller cingulum located in the middle, more rounded root, and that's it. So take care and see you in mandibular incisor carving demonstrations. Have a nice day.